So if the Tanakh, the Jewish scripture, foretells the coming of an Arabian prophet in clear terms, that he will do X, Y, and Z, and all of those characteristics fit Muhammad perfectly well, and he may well be a true prophet according to the Tanakh, then what grounds do the Jewish people have to reject him as a true prophet? And if he's a true prophet, then he is the one telling us he was the last and final messenger. There is no other choice to people but to
follow. فتعالى الله الملك الحق ولا تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
Rabbi looks bewildered.
No. Why is it? We're having a very friendly discussion. I like
I
that.
just came from Jerusalem yesterday. I haven't slept.
Wow,
Fine.
wow, you're
Have
lucky.
you come from Jerusalem?
Yeah.
Wow.
And just where he's coming from, he just prayed Salatul Asr
Okay,
in London Central Mosque.
okay.
And just coming there, sir.
So the issue I have at hand is that the Jewish people clearly have rejected Muhammad as a true prophet
Rejected. Where did he get rejected?
because they don't believe in him. They
That
don't
doesn't
follow
mean
him.
rejected. Not following doesn't mean rejected. You don't follow
Right.
Moses.
No.
You don't reject him.
No, we don't follow him.
You don't keep
because-
kosher. You don't keep because it's abrogated. We don't accept
I'll
abrogation.
explain
That's
why
where it comes.
we don't follow
No,
the
because it's
Mosaic law.
abrogated. Because it's abrogated.
No. That's abrogated means it's been cancelled by a new law.
No one void,
by a new law. The previous laws have been cancelled. That's what abrogation means. Our concern or our reason of not following Moses is for two reasons. You're right. One is correct. Quran abrogated the laws before. And the second reason is the law of Moses is no longer pure. It has been corrupted. It has been changed.
It's tied together. Tarif goes together with abrogation.
Sorry?
Tarif, that is believing that
Yes,
it's
yes.
corrupted.
So do you deny that the Torah has been corrupted?
absolutely.
It has been corrupted.
No, I absolutely deny that.
You deny that?
Torah is absolutely perfect. It's word for word what God dictated to Moses.
Right. But how do you prove that when you look at all the? I mean, when you look at the Torah as it stands today,
Yeah.
it's based upon two sources. Primarily, it's
Who
based
says?
on
Who says?
Masoretic text.
Just the Masoretic text. That's
Right.
it.
Okay. So the Dead Sea Scrolls are not Torah.
No, for not. There was a Geniza. It was a place where they scribes were parts things. First of all, you have to understand that at that time people did paraphrases of the Torah. They would try to work in all sorts of ideas. They translated different languages, Aramaic, and this is with the Dead Sea Scrolls. You have all sorts of. It will tell you what's collected. Every letter, every vowel point was dictated by God to Moses, word for word, letter for letter.
Right, so you're saying
and when
the
we
Torah-
hold up the Torah today in the scroll, we say this is the Torah that God revealed to Moses. This
Okay.
word
Let's
for word.
get more textual.
Okay.
If you're making
But
that
I think
claim-
look, we can find differences. If you want to look, I think it's much more worthwhile, especially in a place like this, is to explore commonalities.
I agree.
Why look at for other differences? I mean, there are differences. What are you gonna do? When Jews make kiddush over wine, Muslims don't. When we say at the end of our
I'll
prayers,
testify to that.
when we say at the
Jews
end of our
and Muslims
prayers,
have a lot more in common.
when we say at the end of our prayers, we look to the right. We say, "Osei shalom b'mrumav, osei shalom." First we look to the left and look to the right. You look to the right first and then to the left. There are differences. I mean, what are you going to do?
Of course. I mean, and those differences are not.
It's a sharia. There are different sharias.
Yes.
I mean,
But my question is, if the Jewish people have been told by God in the Tanakh, right? We believe certain portions of the Tanakh, despite the fact that the Tanakh has been corrupted, altered,
well, again, an Orthodox Jewish person's coming
this is
from
what
that
we
point.
believe.
But you're asking Jewish people what Jewish people think.
Of course, I mean, I respect your view. I completely respect your view.
Right,
If
so-
you believe that the text of the Old Testament or the text of the Tanakh,
The Masoretic text, the
the
Hebrew.
Masoretic, or even
Masoretic text.
the Old, the Dead Sea Scrolls are uniform. That's your view. I respect it.
Well, the Dead
But-
Sea Scrolls were written by heretical people who had all sorts of crazy ideas. They're Essenes. They were
course,
not
of
considered
course.
mainstream Jews.
Of course, I understand. and unfortunately we don't have anything from the temple period, or anything complete. So
No, we do. You're talking about original manuscripts.
Yeah, we don't have.
And you cast doubt on the people who say that they have copies of the original manuscripts.
yeah.
Okay.
The
So
oldest-
that's a line of thinking. I don't know if we can progress very far.
Right.
But-
With the Masoretic text, it is quite late. The Masoretic text, you know the source where it comes from, right?
The
actual.
Leppo Codex.
Does it have anything to do with Septuagint?
Septuagint is absolutely not.
Right.
Septuagint was a Greek translation where they changed words around. In fact,
Right.
I think when the Quran refers to words being changed around, I think it's referring to the Septuagint.
Right.
Because there were Christians who believed that the Greek translation was superior to the Hebrew translation.
Right.
But it was created for Ptolemy,
Okay.
for people the people who did it actually did it for a good reason. They wanted to take everything you could possibly think as having to do with idolatry.
So why would the Jewish
And they
scholars,
changed it around.
70 Jewish scholars change the text? Why would they do
Because
that?
they were writing it for pagans, Egyptians,
Right.
so they wouldn't see any in that when it says
there
we
are no
created the
major
world.
differences.
It says in the Torah that says we created the world.
But there are no major differences between Septuagint and
There are absolutely major differences.
Well,
In-
such
in
as?
one of the verses that it talks about in the Quran, it says that talk about the text that the Jewish people don't prostrate when they pray, and in truth, if you look at the Septuagint, they dropped that word out. They took out the word to prostrate. Come before the gates of God,
Right.
and prostrate and seek repentance.
Right.
And in the Septuagint, you'll find that word got dropped out because
Right.
the Septuagint they didn't want to prostrate.
Okay.
They wanted to sit down
But
on
do the
their
Jewish people
laurels and-
prostrate today?
Yes, they do.
Where?
In the high holidays.
Right. Okay.
And when the temple was destroyed, they all the time prostrated until the temple was destroyed. When it was destroyed as a sign of mourning, they only prostrated halfway.
Right.
So when the temple was destroyed, they only prostrate halfway. But still, in the high holidays, Yom Kippur, and as they do, prostrate.
So you see, we as Muslims.
Hey, look,
We have
I consider myself a Muslim.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have to mention to you.
Yeah, you
somebody
believe in
else.
La ilaha illallah, I know, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the only,
Pray five
where you
times a day.
stop is Muhammad Rasulullah. That's where you stop, yeah.
If you go all the gates,
Yeah, which is
if
fine.
you
I
go
mean, that's your
all
choice.
the gates of
we
Jerusalem, if
we
you go-
as Muslims, our civilization, as you will.
we as Muslims,
you-
we as Muslims,
no,
us,
Muslims in the sense that we believe in God.
Quranic.
We believe in God.
No, but it's more than believing. It's more than
Give it to
believing.
him.
Adnan, put it on you, otherwise you'll forget.
Yeah,
Put it on you. Put it on you.
Okay.
Otherwise we'll forget, no?
Okay. Right. So we as Muslims, when I say we as Muslims, we as
Quranic, let's say Quranic or more. Quranic.
Minhum mu'minun.
Okay.
Yes, the Quran says among them are believers,
Yes.
right? Believers in what is the question? There is a
The
commentary.
Sharia of the Quran or the Sharia of Torah.
Okay. For us, the Muslims, when I say Muslims, us, I mean people who believe in the prophethood of Muhammad, that he's the final messenger of God, and he abrogated all the Sharias, all
Okay,
the
well,
laws
first
before
of
him.
all, it doesn't actually say that anywhere in the Quran.
It does.
Where?
It does. That he abrogated all the.
Where? Where does it say it abrogated the Torah?
Of course, it says.
Where
that.
does it? Tell me, give me the
It,
ayah.
it says that the Quran is the final message to
No, where does it
humanity.
say it abrogated the Torah? Maybe they were parallel.
Right. Where does it say specifically that
Abrogated
Quran
the Torah.
abrogates
Give me
the
an
Torah?
ayah or a hadith anywhere that says that.
The Quran says that the Quran is the only way to follow. Islam.
No,
Islam.
it doesn't
In the
say it. It
deen-
says Islam is the deen.
Yes.
It doesn't say Sharia.
Yes.
We all believe that we're sharing the follow the same deen.
When the Quran says in the deen indallah al-Islam,
Yeah.
what does the Quran mean?
No, now you're going to the
Verily,
interpretation.
let me-
Wait, now you're going to the
let-
interpretation.
I'm gonna
I'm looking for a verse.
I'm
Give me a
gonna
verse that
translate-
says.
I'm gonna
No. I want a verse that says
Of
the
course,
Torah
I will give
was
you the
corrupted.
If you
No.
let me,
Tell me.
if you let me come in, Rabbi, yeah?
Okay.
The Quran says, verily, the only faith for God or for God is Islam. The only faith.
What's the word for faith there?
Deen.
Deen, not
Deen is
Sharia.
a way of life.
No, deen is not Sharia.
No. Deen is Sharia.
No, it's not.
Deen, actually, I'll explain to you. Deen is Sharia according to the Jewish rabbis, Jewish scholars. They
Deen
will
is
tell
the
you.
minimum. You have to believe in God. You believe in the angels. Believe in the last day. That's deen. That's not Sharia.
Okay, our understanding of deen, the word deen, is that it is a way of life. It is a way of life. It is not only it's not only literature.
Okay, but
it's not only beliefs. Rather, it's actions also. Deen is action.
There is no question that mainline Judaism, mainline Islam believes that the Torah is corrupted. The only thing is, I as a historian say,
No, it's based on the Quran, by the way. The Quran says...
what I as a historian claim
Yeah.
is that this began with Ibn Hazm.
the claim
Ibn
that
Hazm.
Torah is corrupted.
Yes. That
Okay.
before that...
But what do you
it
do with
was
the verse of the Quran, chapter 2, verse 79? فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَكْتُبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ ثُمَّ يَقُولُونَ هَذَا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ لِيَشْتَرُوا بِهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا. Woe be unto those who write books with their own hands and
but
say these
that's
books
the-
are from God.
Yeah.
So that's referring directly to the Jewish people.
How do you know? How do you know it's not referring to the
Because when
Apocrypha?
you read the when you read the
No,
context,
how do you know it's not referring to Jewish people? Sadducees, heretical Sadducees who were writing apocryphal books.
Okay.
Those were actually books, or even the Septuagint. This is from God. They wrote it with their own hands. The
Okay,
Septuagint,
so
they
when
wrote with their own hands.
Prophet Jeremiah, you
Yeah,
believe in
yeah,
it, right?
yeah, absolutely.
In chapter 8, verse 8,
Yeah.
when he's saying the rabbis have corrupted the books.
No, he doesn't say that.
Okay, read it.
It talks about the scribes.
Okay, scribes. Yeah,
The
that's
word-
what the
it
scribes.
talks about
Scribes have.
that there were bad and evil scribes in the northern kingdom
Right.
of Israel
Right.
who were trying to justify the prophet, but it has nothing to do with the Torah.
Right. So
It doesn't mention Torah.
So when scribes are mentioned in the Old Testament, what scribes are we talking about? Scribes of history, scribes of chronicles, or scribes of scripture?
All of the above.
Scribes, as far as I know, scribes means people writing scripture.
No. A scribe,
Okay.
the word sofer means
Right.
somebody writes.
Right.
That's it.
So it's a general term.
General.
Jeremiah generally talking about people are corrupting history.
Yeah, he was talking about people in
Writing
his
scripture.
kingdom.
Okay,
Yeah,
go to-
not writing scripture.
So Jeremiah
The
is
line pen
Jeremiah is
of
okay.
the scribes.
Right.
It
So
doesn't
which
talk about
scribes
the
is he
Torah.
talking
It
about?
doesn't talk about the Torah anywhere in that verse.
I respect your view. I'm saying when Jeremiah is saying scribes, is he talking about any scribe or he's talking
He's
about
talking
Israelites?
He's
Israelites.
talking about false prophets who were trying to say he was doing a good thing when they were just making up stuff.
Right. Okay. Let's go to another point then. To elaborate it further. You believe the Pentateuch, the 5 books.
Wait, why are we going this?
prove-
I'm not a
to prove-
debater. I'm
No.
not a debater. I'm not a debater.
No,
I'm
I'm
a
not a
historian.
debater.
I want to talk about things that are the same.
I am one of your students. You're a rabbi. I'm a student. I'm only a miskin. In the Arabic level, miskin is someone really down to earth.
I am a historian. I am here to say that the Jewish people believe that there's one deen that was given to Adam, given to Noah. This deen is obligatory on all mankind. All the prophets followed the same deen, and that each nation was given, each ummah was given its own sharia. That's what we say.
But-
and for you to keep that, you're my brother. You're my co-religious.
I completely accept
Okay.
your honorable statement that we are brothers.
No, but
I
it's not,
accept
it's
you as
not
my
just an
brother.
honorable
I accept you as my
statement. It is
brother.
a way of life. It is the way the Jewish people
The
function.
issue here we're discussing is
No.
you are Jewish. I am a Muslim who follows Muhammad as a prophet of God. You clearly don't.
I'm claiming to you that I'm a Musavi is the Muslim.
No, I cannot call you Muslim. I cannot call you Muslim. I cannot
You
call
can't.
you can claim to be Muslim. No problem with that. I respect your claim. If you claim to be Muslim, I have no problem with that. You see,
Not only that, I claim that you are a proper believer, complete in every way.
and I praise that.
Okay.
I cherish that thought. I really appreciate that thought. Seriously, and I'm being very sincere about this.
And so I don't
Okay?
really have much to say after that.
But the discussion
If you want to
again,
talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls,
no, don't talk about that. The discussion. What my question is, as a sincere
I mean,
Jewish.
what I
As a
see, like
sincere-
Ibn Qatada said, it says Din Wahad Sharia Muktafir. There's one din and there's many
No,
Sharia.
but if you read Isaiah 42 carefully, which you do, I'm
I
sure
do.
you have.
Right,
Right.
but-
So when it says let the villages of Kedar lift up their voices,
That's
let them.
fine. Okay,
So you know who Kedar is, right?
That's absolutely a perfectly legitimate interpretation.
Right.
But that doesn't invalidate the Torah.
But then we have the Quran. You see, the problem here is there's an issue. This is one of the things I discuss with the Sikh community. You know Sikhs, right? In the Guru Granth Sahib, in the scripture, which they call scripture, by the way, there is Muslim poetry there is Hindu poetry there, and it is to Sikhs their scripture. In that scripture, their main Guru, the first Guru, Guru Nanak, he praised the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, that if you really want to be sweet, then follow the way of the Prophet, referring to Prophet Muhammad. I asked them, the Sikhs, we have a dilemma.
You have to,
Let me
you have to
quickly
follow
explain.
somebody.
Yeah, let me quickly explain. The dilemma is that if Guru Nanak is saying that Prophet Muhammad is a true prophet, if he's saying that, then you cannot be Sikh. Why? Because if he's a true prophet, then he cannot be a liar, right? And if he's not a liar, he is the one telling you that I'm the last prophet. There is no prophet after me, right? If that's the case, then you cannot possibly follow Guru Nanak and believe that Prophet Muhammad is not to be followed. Because
How
Guru
does
Nanak,
that apply to Moses?
yes. How does it apply to the Jewish people? Is the question. Watch
Moses.
this. I'll come to Moses as well. The point we're making
You
here
can't
is
compare Moses to
if
Torah.
Prophet Muhammad is truly foretold in the Old Testament, in the Tanakh,
Yeah?
and for that reason he's a God-sent prophet,
Okay.
a true prophet, then you can no longer be Jewish. Logically, I'll tell you why. Let me explain. Let me explain.
Interpolation.
No, wait.
Interpretation.
If he is foretold in Scripture, the Jewish Scripture, which we believe he was, we actually believe that parts of Tanakh are revelation. They did come from God. Okay.
He won on the book. This is the verse, Muhaiminan alayh.
I know all of this. I'm gonna come to that. I mean, this is a very specific point we're discussing here. The point is, if the Tanakh confirms the coming of an Arabian prophet, no, Rabbi, do it, understand my question. It's a very specific point.
Yes, it's the same point all the time.
No, but
is
if-
this abrogated the Torah, so you have to believe in the new stuff?
Wait.
The Torah,
First,
Jews
let's
don't
go
believe
step
that.
by step. Before we come to
No, I
abrogation.
don't want to go for this. A lot of other people that has different questions.
Let's take questions. Let me finish my point very
But
quickly.
we're going to talk with you for 20 minutes.
It's a nice discussion. It's a beautiful discussion. It's
I
a very
know,
friendly
you're reading
discussion.
yourself. You're reading yourself.
Interested to hear.
Yeah, okay.
So if the Tanakh, the Jewish scripture, foretells the coming of an Arabian prophet in clear terms, that he will do X, Y, and Z, and all of those characteristics fit Muhammad perfectly well, and he may well be a true prophet according to the Tanakh, then what grounds do the Jewish people have to reject him as a true prophet? And if he's a true prophet, then he's the one telling us he was the last and final messenger.
Because we
There is no
believe
other
that
choice to
God
people but to
sent
follow him.
Hundreds of thousands of prophets to different nations.
Yes, but if he's a true prophet according
He
to
can
the
be a
Tanakh,
true prophet.
okay,
But
then he cannot be a liar.
He can't be. He wasn't teaching Torah, and the Torah clearly says that if somebody's teaching something different than Moses, he's not for the children of Israel. So we're left with that.
I understand. But if according to the Tanakh, if he's a true prophet, then he cannot be a liar.
Wait, what true prophet is that? A true prophet for whom?
Okay, anyone. For anyone. If the Tanakh says he's a true prophet cannot be a liar. Do we agree?
It says in Al-Maida, it says that God, if he wanted to, could have made us all one Sharia, one Ummah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he chose not to.
Yes.
Okay, he wanted
For-
us to have different
for-
tribes.
for
Well, you
recognition.
can get into the interpretation,
Yeah.
but he wanted multiple Sharia.
But then again, coming back to the point, if the Tanakh declares a prophet to be a true prophet, can he be a liar? Can he be a liar?
What you're doing is you're doing the same thing that Constantine did. You're taking one point and extrapolating it to the whole all of mankind.
It's a very important point.
No, you're
If the Tanakh
extrapolating.
is saying a prophet is a true prophet, then we have two options: either to accept him as a true prophet or reject him.
No, that's not true. If you have different Sharias, you have this prophet is this. It says the Hadith says that Muhammad is the prophet. It says you are the people that I've been assigned to. He was assigned to the people, and the ayah says that God would never send a prophet to people who don't understand his language.
I understand. My beloved rabbi, my beloved brother. Again, I will.
I think we're repeating ourselves.
No, we're not. If Tanakh says a prophet is a true prophet, can that prophet be a liar? That's a very simple question.
Look, if I tell you you have to keep a Shabbat, I'm being a liar because you don't have to. But if I say that I have to keep Shabbat, I'm telling the truth.
Muhammad
I'm saying the
alayh,
same
Muhammad
thing, but
alayh.
it has different applicability.
My question.
So you can have a true prophet, but he could be applicable to one people and not to another people.
I understand that. But if a
So
true
it's-
if a
that's
true
the
prophet comes,
Alameen.
according to the Tanakh, but that's a different question. According to the Tanakh says he's a true prophet of God. Now he comes along, this true prophet who has been foretold by the Tanakh, he comes along and he goes, you know what? I have been foretold in the Tanakh, and the Jewish people know this. يَعْرِفُونَهُ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم.
Okay,
The Jewish people know him as they know their own sons. He's been foretold. Now he's telling the Jewish people, I am your prophet, follow me. So now the Jewish people have two choices. If he's a true prophet according to Tanakh, they follow him because he's the one telling them to follow him. If he's not a true prophet, then he's a liar, don't follow him. That's the dilemma we're facing with the Jewish people.
No,
That's the point I'm making.
yeah, well, that's because that's the interpretation you put on it, and we have the interpretation that says that
How do
anybody
you undo this interpretation according to the Tanakh?
It's not according to the Tanakh. It's not according to the Tanakh.
So if
no, I'm saying because we have the very clear tradition that anybody who teaches something different than Moses about Shabbat, about kosher, about Yom Kippur, he is not a prophet.
I got
for
that
Israel.
point. I got that point.
So he's not a prophet for Israel.
But if the Tanakh is telling you at the same time, a prophet will come.
But you're repeating yourself.
No, I'm not repeating.
You are repeating yourself.
Rabbi, this is a very important point which we're missing. We're
We're not missing.
We're missing something. Wait.
Going back to the fundamental point we said at the beginning.
I'll tell you why I'm following Muhammad. Because when I read the Quran in chapter 7, verse 157 tells me, right, that he has been foretold. Who? This man Muhammad has been foretold. Okay, يَجِدُونَهُمْ مَكْتُوبًا عِنْدَهُمْ فِي التَّوْرَاةِ وَالْإِنْجِيلِ. Clearly, that they find him mentioned in the Torah and in the Gospel. Okay, great. So what we do is we go into the Torah.
Let me talk for a second here.
Yeah,
You talk about Daniel. Daniel, the name for Daniel was Ish Hamudot.
Right.
The person who was the man of delights. The word Hamudot is the same root as Muhammad. He said that 470 years.
I'm not talking about that, by the way.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm not talking about those
I'm
passages.
talking about this. I'm talking about that. I am talking about that passage. 470 years, the redemption would come. Now, 470 years after the destruction, when Hadrian plowed the Temple Mount. That was
132,
132. Plus, what's 132 plus 470?
That's a huge difference.
622.
Yeah.
What happened in 622? The Hijra.
Yes.
So there were many Jewish people that believed that.
Right. Okay.
So believe that Ish Hamudot.
Many Jewish people throughout centuries have converted to Islam because they found the prophecies in the book of Isaiah and elsewhere to be very consistent with the life of Muhammad.
Okay, I have come to the conclusion you're repeating yourself. So let other people repeat.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
So our points. Yeah.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Very
And to
Just
make.
remember one thing.
Yeah.
Remember one
And
thing,
this is
that
no
the Jewish
repetition, by the way.
people, you know, that the Jewish people have the idea of covenants, what of a universal deen that all mankind has to follow, and they say you have to believe in God, you have to believe in reward and punishment, and do good works, and you guys are doing that, and that's just wonderful. As far as we're concerned, you guys can be as great as the high priest of the Jewish people.
And we really appreciate that, and this is one of the
And I
reasons
hope
why
that's,
the Jewish people and
stick.
Muslims coexisted for over 1,000 years.
Absolutely, and why they can continue to coexist for 1,000 years.
Absolutely. Until the state of Israel was created, everything was fine. Everything was fine. In the Jewish world, the Jewish people had the golden age with the Muslims. As you, I'm pretty sure you're a historian. You know what happened in Al-Andalus. You know.
There's been ups and downs throughout
Of
history.
course. There's no utopia. I'm not claiming a utopia.
And-
I'm saying there were periods of persecution, no
Yeah,
doubt. But the overall picture of the Jewish experience in Spain was amazing. The Jewish scholars are telling us it was the golden age. For 3 centuries, at least from 950 to 1250, that
If you
was the
remember-
golden
remember,
age
it was that
when
golden
some of the
age
best Jewish
that
poets.
had Shmuel Nagid,
Yes.
who was made the
Judah
head of the
Halevi.
Jewish army,
Judah Halevi.
who was made head of the Islamic army.
Yes.
And that was what tremendously upset Ibn Hazm.
Ibn Hazm was-
He was tremendously upset that a Jew should be given permission by the Sultan to control that, and he wrote tremendous, very difficult things about the Jewish people. And I think we're still living that.
You see, we have that, but on the other hand, we had a prime minister called Hasdai ibn Shaprut, right? Hasdai was the prime minister before Ibn Hazm was on the scene, right? Yeah. This was 900s when Abdurrahman III was the caliph. He was the most powerful monarch in Western Europe, and Hasdai was his prime minister, a Jewish prime minister. So we've had this coexistence, even in the Middle East, even in North Africa. As far as Mughal India, there were Jewish merchants there flourishing.
As
the state of
Jewish
Israel.
people are, no, it's not just the state of Israel.
You don't think
It
state of
has-
Israel changed anything?
Well,
The creation of the state.
We've two generations of wartime propaganda. People saying that this person's less than human, this person's less than human. Both sides are trying to blame the other.
Yes.
So we don't have. I mean, first of all, it's forbidden for a believer to believe the internet and for an unbeliever to give news and reports of what's going on. So what we really need are proper religious courts to investigate what's really going on, because we don't have any credible source to really. So I'm going to leave that aside to the politicians who can deal with that. But what I do know is that the idea of looking at, if you can see another Jew.
I'm sorry. Do you say when these atrocities are taking place in Israel, we need someone to go and physically have a look at what's happening? Or
I believe you need God-fearing. We need God-fearing judges to collect evidence.
But the initial point I was making was that
Because there is another side to
things
both
went
stories,
bitter between the. I mean, when I say, I don't mean to be sarcastic, but when I say people who claim to be Jewish in Israel, who are committing atrocities against the Palestinians, things went bitter when those people.
I walk around in Ramallah. I walk around in Nablus.
Right.
I have
The Jews
friends
have
that I have no problems.
The
with
Jews
that.
have walked
And
these
I'm
streets
not-
for over 1,000 years. There was no
I do
problem.
it today, and I don't see atrocities going on all the time. I mean, it is what's portrayed in the media. You know, walking around there is not accurate. And I won't
You don't
go
think
into what
that
is accurate.
the state of Israel is actually committing atrocities against Palestinians?
I didn't
You
say
don't
that.
think so?
What I said is it's not accurate. And
That-
I don't have the information. I don't have
you
the
say you
information.
walk them streets.
Yes.
Do you not see houses getting bombed? Do you not
No.
see Palestinians getting kicked out of their houses?
No.
Do you not? You don't see none
So
of
you've
that.
never heard about Gaza being bombed from the sky
Well, there's a war
and
going
white
on.
phosphorus
There's a war
being
going on.
dropped on.
There is a resistance.
Yeah.
There is one group of people who feel that they are entitled to live there, and there's another group of people who feel that they're not entitled to live there, and they're fighting. And a lot of bad things happen when people fight.
Of course, but do you think there is
I don't think
proportionally they're equal? Do you think they're
I'm not a politician, I'm not a reporter, I can't
I
answer that
understand.
question.
I understand.
But I do say there is a war going on, there is a fight
We're
going
asking
on.
you these questions because you have said you walk them streets.
Yes,
I think
yes.
you just come back yesterday.
No,
Okay,
I'm
but-
saying the Jews have walked those streets for over
Yeah,
a
but no,
thousand
but
years.
what I'm saying is this is
and
going to happen.
Muslims allowed the Jewish people to exist.
What I'm saying is this can happen in the future too.
Yeah.
But what has to happen is we have to respect each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to. I have to believe you're a
How do you
believer.
respect each other
and-
when one force, the Israeli forces, are going to people's houses and dragging them out?
How much have you read about the West in the news? And the West talks about Muslims, and they make up stories of how awful they
No,
are.
we have seen footage. We're talking about original footage.
Okay,
which we
there's
can
all
show
sorts of-
now.
Where the Israeli soldiers are beating
I don't
children
want
up.
to get. I
and-
don't want to
yeah.
get into that. I will say.
I understand.
Nothing there.
Stay off the politics.
We've got very limited time.
Yeah, stay off.
Maybe
Stay off
about
the
3
politics.
moments. About political issues, one thing I can say, he sympathizes more with us because he himself is fighting the same issue we did.
No, he's a perfectly nice gentleman.
Let's keep the politics.
We've had a very nice discussion.
But I am very much against.
Yeah.
I'm very much against
Yeah.
people concluding
The reason
things
why
on the
this issue
internet.
came up, the reason why this
You
issue
can't
came
condemn
up,
somebody
3
from
minutes,
what they see
inshallah,
on the
we-
internet.
because the point I was making was the Jewish people and the Muslims, the believers of Muhammad, that's what I mean by Muslims, people who believe in Muhammad as the last messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they have coexisted for over 1,000 years. The Jewish people were vulnerable, they were being persecuted around the world. Muslims took them into their arms and protected the Jewish people and gave them
Some of them didn't. It's up and down.
over 90% of the Jewish
What I'm saying,
populations
okay,
were in the
at
Muslim
this
lands.
point, on this point,
Yeah.
I am disagreeing with you. I do say that the core of the issue.
Wait,
No. I'm disagreeing that because of the state caused the whole problem. I'm saying it's because of lack of respect. That's what I'm saying. Both sides.
Where did this
Both
lack of
sides are
respect
not
come from?
respecting-
Suddenly,
Okay, that's something
after
else.
after
Wait,
1,000 years of
but what's
coexistence,
saying-
lack of respect pops
I
into
think there are
existence.
plenty of good Palestinians. There are plenty of good Israelis, and they could get along. And I think what we just got to do is like that guy over there who's really talking fiery, and he and I should be able to get along, hug each other, and we should really build a better world.
But you don't see that coexistence was disturbed by the creation
I
of
don't
the
think
state of
it was.
Israel.
I don't think it's impossible today.
Okay,
I think it's still possible, but I think it's just a matter of wanting.
right.
Wanting what?
Coexist. Right.
He said it.
But if I
I
come,
think what's reported on the news.
if I come
think it's
into
absolutely haram to judge a person based on what you see on the internet. It's totally. These are
You should
unbelievers.
verify.
They have no purpose in the world other than incite worse
So
violence.
what about these settlements that are coming up, the land that's been taken from the
Again,
Palestinians?
you're
He
getting
doesn't
into
want to
details.
discuss that
So
politics. So, yeah,
I'm
we
saying
understand.
what we
The reason
need-
why you don't want to
we need
discuss
well, the reason what happened in the Constitution of Medina, you had one, it's called Umma Wahida, you had Jews and Muslims sitting together. Why did it work? Because you had one judiciary. You had one system of justice. The Jews had their din, and the Muslims had their din, but both of them came to the Prophet was tied under one system. And that's what we need today and what we don't have. The Palestinians and the Israelis, we don't have.
So are you
we
saying
don't
that
have a way to
Israeli
solve
system is
any
failing?
problem.
Are you saying?
Absolutely failed. The UN's failed. The Palestinians have failed. All of them
So
failed.
Islamic system was better. The Ottomans
Well,
allowed the Jewish
I won't say that necessarily it was better, but it definitely was on the right idea to have a single system of
right
society.
because the Jews
There's
and the
no
Muslims are
way-
coexisting.
There's no way to solve any problem if you can't. I mean, if you can't trust the guy behind who's walking behind you, he's not going to stab you. If you can't trust that, what kind of peace can you have? You have to have.
So you
a
are actually
global-
confirming that the Muslim period was a
I'm
good
saying the
period.
Ottomans had the right idea to have a single system over everybody, and in fact,
No, it was not a single system, by the way.
well, it's a millet system.
No. The Ottoman courts were there for the Ottomans, for the Muslims.
No, but
The
it
Jewish
was,
best-ins
it
were
wasn't
there
a
for the
single
Jewish
system.
people.
It was a unified system. There was recourse. You could go to the Sultan.
There was one government. There was
Yeah.
one government, but the people in Ottoman Jerusalem lived by their own laws. For example, the Muslims had their own courts, the Jews had their Beth-Dins,
Right.
and the Christians
Absolutely.
had their priests to
But
govern.
they were tied
govern.
together.
So it's a
Forget them.
misconception
they were tied together. All of them
by
could
the
appeal to the
by the
Sultan.
political
All
by
of
the
them could
political
appeal to-
establishment called the Ottomans,
Absolutely.
right? The Ottomans.
And that's what we don't have today. If
Unfortunately.
somebody breaks a window.
So here we have a Jewish rabbi advocating for the return of the Ottomans.
Wow, I didn't say that. I said for a single judicial system.
Thank you,
You
sir.
need to
Let's move on.
have.
No, the only
You
period.
can't have justice. You can't have peace if you don't have justice. And you can't have justice if you don't have a single judicial
Absolutely,
system.
I agree.
And that's what we need.
I agree.
The UN has completely failed. It has completely
This is
failed.
a thought that's to be cherished. This is what Karen Armstrong. Karen Armstrong is a very good scholar. She stated in a history of Jerusalem that it were the first time these three Abrahamic faiths coexisted was under the system of Muslims. When the Muslims brought the system, when they took over the city, by the way, when Umar the Second, not Umar the Second, Umar the First, he took the city of Jerusalem from the Byzantines, Patriarch Sophronius. They actually put a clause in the treaty that you will not allow the Jewish people to live in Jerusalem, and it were the Muslims who brought the Jewish people back into Jerusalem, right? So this rhetoric out there, or this propaganda out there that the Muslims are somehow anti-Semitic, Muslims are anti-Jewish, Muslims want to wipe out the Jewish people.
The same propaganda is that the
This is-
Jewish
this is
people
a lie.
don't like the Muslims, that the Jewish people hate the Palestinians,
We don't
the
believe it.
Israelis are
We don't believe
out
it.
doing
We
target
meet-
practice.
we meet-
on
we
all
meet
children.
beautiful gentlemen like
This is
yourself
not-
who
there are
change our
plenty-
perception. Yeah.
There are plenty of good Jews, there's plenty of good Israelis, there's plenty of good Palestinians. Again, what we need is a single system, and I believe that the religious courts, if you have B'nai Noach, what we call B'nai Noach, and then you have Sharia or whatever, you have honest people who fear God, who are making judgment and not doing it for politics, not to bring power to some other people. I mean, governments are rising and falling all the time. You need people who, it says both by Islamic tradition, Jewish tradition, that a judge has to feel that he has the sword of Allah above him all the time. If he makes a wrong judgment, he'll be completely cut to pieces. We need people like that today. We don't have that. Okay. Very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you.
Can I give you a hug?
Yes.
Very nice meeting you. Very nice talking to you. We invite you for a dinner with us if you have time, but I can see that
Well,
you
we're
have to
kind
leave.
of rushed,
But
but,
it was very nice
may
talking
we
to you.
find an
And this is what we need. The Jewish people and the Muslims. I already have your.
Keep the communication
We need to
going.
keep the communication going. We need to keep the discussion going, and we will break all these barriers. Thank you so much for talking.
Thanks very much.
Shalom.
Thank you.